In heat like this, you can kill a garden with one extra bucket of water, or save it by watering 3 times less. I'll show you 3 old tricks that save water, save time, and keep your garden alive through the worst of the heat. And yes, one of them is why you should never water in the evening. Stick around for it, it matters most. I'm Amos Reel, an Amish farmer from Ohio. Let's begin. Secret 1, and it breaks the biggest habit. Almost everyone waters a little, but every day. And that's exactly what dries a garden out. With shallow daily watering, the roots sit up top at the baking crust, and the plant wilts the moment you skip a day. Right now you're thinking, water once a week, won't it just dry up? The opposite. Here's why it works. Water pulls the roots after it. Sprinkle the top, and the roots stay up by the hot crust. Water deep and seldom, and the root heads down after the water into cool, damp soil, and heat doesn't scare a plant like that. So do the opposite. Less often, but deep. Once or twice a week, a long, slow soak right at the root, so the water goes down deep, while your neighbor runs around with a watering can every evening. And there's a simple old trick for it. Sink a bucket with holes or a clay pot next to the plant and keep it filled. The water seeps out slowly, straight to the roots, and none of it evaporates for nothing. And you get several wins at once. Less water used, less time fussing, far fewer weeds on the dry surface, and a plant that stands up to any drought. And a little bonus to go with it: collect rainwater. Set a plain barrel under your downspout. One good rain and it's full, and there's your free supply for the dry days. And that water is far better for the garden than tap. No chlorine, no lime. It's a little warm, room temperature, so the roots don't get a cold shock from the faucet. Here's something most people miss too. Tap water carries salts and lime, and year after year they build up in the bed and slowly salt the soil, and that only makes it harder on the roots. Rainwater does the opposite. It waters and rinses the soil at the same time without spoiling it. And it pays off too. In the heat, when the water bill climbs, and some towns even ask you to water less, your own barrel comes through. The garden's watered, and your wallet's fuller. Cover it with a lid or a screen so mosquitoes don't move in, and you've got water on hand all season, for free. But no matter how much you pour, in the heat, the water's gone in an hour, unless you do this. Secret 2, cover the soil. Bare ground in the sun cracks and gives up its moisture in a couple of hours. Covered ground holds it for days. Take whatever's free from your own yard, straw, grass clippings, fallen leaves, and lay it around the plant about 2 inches thick. Just don't push it right up against the stem. Here's why it works. The sun hits the mulch, not the roots. The mulch takes the heat, and the soil underneath stays cool and damp instead of steaming the water away. Now you're thinking, dry straw in the sun. Won't it catch fire? Won't it burn the roots? No, mulch doesn't burn. It shades the ground and holds the cool. It's the bare crust that cracks and bakes, while under the straw the roots are tucked away from the heat. And don't worry about rot, a 2-inch layer, not up against the stem. Air moves through, the stem stays dry, and there's no rot. Rot happens where it's piled thick and tight to the base. And you get a handful of perks at once. Watering nearly half as often, weeds that can't push through the layer, soil that doesn't harden into a crust, and mulch that breaks down and feeds the soil on top of it all. My grandfather always said, don't chase the thirst, cover the ground, and it'll save the water for you. And if you're still nervous, try it on one plant or the edge of a bed. In a week, you'll see for yourself the soil under the mulch is damp and alive, while the rest is already dry, and you'll cover the rest with an easy mind. And one more bonus, an old bed sheet. On the fiercest afternoons, when the sun's beating straight down, drape an old sheet or any light cloth over a few stakes above the bed. You get light shade. Under it, the ground doesn't bake, evaporation drops, and the leaves don't scorch in the blaze. And here's what matters more than a little scorch. Once the heat climbs past a hard 90 degrees, tomatoes and peppers just drop their blossoms and stop setting fruit. The plant all but stalls. A couple degrees of shade under that cloth keeps it below the line, and the fruit keeps setting, while out in the open sun, those days it drops for nothing. It's not for all day, just a few worst hours. Take it off by evening and the plant's back in the sun. A couple of sticks and an old sheet you'd have thrown out anyway, and they save your harvest the week your neighbor loses his. And these are just a couple of bonuses. In the next video, I'll round up even more ways to save your garden in the worst of the heat. And here's the main secret, the one from the thumbnail. Even the right watering ruins everything if you do it at the wrong time. Secret 3, and it's on the thumbnail for good reason. Never water in the evening. Right now you're thinking, but the evening's cool, the water won't evaporate. Isn't that the best time? It sounds logical, sure, but the catch isn't the heat. Wet leaves sit cold and damp all night, and disease and rot move right in on leaves like that, the very thing that blackens and topples a plant in a couple of days. Water at dawn early in the morning, and always at the root, not over the top. A plant drinks through its roots, not its leaves. Here's why it works. In the morning, the leaves dry off fast in the sun. Disease has nothing to grab onto, and the soil drinks its fill before the heat, before the water can evaporate for nothing. And there's more than one win. Less disease, less water lost to the wind, and all day the plant drinks from soil you soaked at dawn. This one rule, early morning and at the root, saves a garden surer than anything else. Even in the cruelest heat, a garden can be saved. Now you know how. Write your own watering trick in the comments. Together we'll save our gardens. Subscribe and hit like.